Welcome back to the Meaningful People podcast. Nachi Gordon here. This is a special edition episode, something we've never done before here at Meaningful People. Good friend of mine, Eli Schwebel, sat down with the one and only Abie Rottenberg. They had such an open, candid discussion. As many know, this new album, Journeys, came out. I think it's Journeys 5. 18 years between this album and the last one. But it's not just the music they discuss. They discuss so much in this episode. The time of this airing of this episode is the week before Pesach. So a lot of cleaning, a lot of errands to run. We want to provide more content for you to listen to. A big thank you to Eli Schwebel, to Abie Rottenberg for recording this episode. Hope you enjoy.
Oh, l'chaim l'vracha.
Abie, I wanted to say Mazel Tov.
Oh.
Mazel Tov to you on the culmination of 18 years. That's high years.
Between albums.
Between albums, 18 years.
And who was my right-hand man? Who was my support? Who was my solace, my chizuk in the last album? Who?
I've got to say, I'm going to take full credit for
Yes.
that.
Eli Schwebel
Yeah.
came to Toronto, sang his heart out. I remember doing, we did Dreams Come True in the studio with Michael Jack and his long blonde hair, you know, remember?
And I think Rihanna was in the studio at the same time.
She was in another one of
in
the
the other one of the
studios.
studios in phase one.
Eat your heart out, Rihanna. You know, whatever you did, it wasn't as good as what
That's
Eli
right.
did
We
in our
did.
studio.
Dreams come true. We should have
You
gotten the
know.
Grammy for that, you know? We didn't get it, though. We'll get it.
The Jewish Grammy. We'll get our Grammys are in the next world.
But what do we?
The Grammys, Yid gets his Grammys in Shamayim.
He his Grammys is Bobby. We wouldn't call it the Bobbies.
That's Grandma.
I know, but Grammy, they call them Grammy,
I
Grandma.
understand, but the real Grammy for a Yid is
Shamayim.
in Shamayim. The real Oscar is in Shamayim. Whatever the other things, what are the other things called?
We have to call them, we have to come up with different names for Yiddish names for these things. So if you had to come up with a name for
Who
a
says
Yiddish,
that's not Pshat in Olam Haba? Who says we're not going to be up there and we're going to, Rebbeinu Shem's going to say, well, I want to call up such and such for giving tzedakah when it was hard, and I'm going to call up such and such for an award because he did a mitzvah and he didn't speak Lashon Hara, even that's such a taiva to speak out and he held it back. Who says we're not going to have a award shows up in Shemaim? The Malachim Gavriel's going to go and we call on, you know what, Eli Schwebel, come on, I did such a big mitzvah. What? Gewaldig. Who says that's not the joy we're going to feel in the next one? Who says it's not? Maybe it is. And lahefach.
I think it's much more about what's happening here. We don't speak about Olam Haba much in the Torah. We don't hear about that. We hear about Din v'Cheshbon.
Torah is very much about this world.
About this world.
That's
So,
true.
and Loiba Shemayim,
Right.
and a lot of these concepts are like dealing with the
Here and now.
dealing with what's happening now and the relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom now.
That's true.
And
Those are things, Ayin Le'rasa, Elikim Zulus, only Hashem knows exactly what's going on, but we can dream, we can speculate.
right. So it's that dream.
know?
It's the dreams that that's where music is.
Oh,
Music.
I believe that there is a world to come.
Come on. But for me, the belief in that and what you're bringing and what as songwriters, you're the reason that I had the guts to go here. Because in our world, you're the only person that was able to go here and speak from a personal experience. Listen, David HaMelech, we say to him, I'm like, guys, David HaMelech was not doing that. He was saying, Mi mama kim, right? And everything in the Tehillim is like that. And
He was running away from Shaul, hiding in a cave.
from his, ready to die.
Right, fighting for his life, and at the same time, it was
Singing that way. But that's why what Baruch did with that, what Reb Baruch did, that's one of my favorite all times of his songs. I mean, that for me is the way he made it it's rising up within.
For those not familiar, Reb Eli is talking about Reb Baruch Chait, the Heilige Reb Baruch Chait, one of his most beautiful nigunim.
Oh my
There's a
goodness.
shtickle machloikas as to what's pshat in that, because according to the Brisker Rav, it's Vani b'chazdachov tachti. I can still feel simcha even though I'm suffering, because you can have bitachon of that there's going to be a Yeshua, there's going to be a salvation, so you can be besimcha even though you're in pain and you're scared and you're nervous, because you have such bitachon and such faith, you could have simcha. But Ashir ala Hashem, but to actually sing, because singing is a higher madrega than just feeling safe and feeling good and being happy. Singing is a nacha madrega. I heard Shlomo Kalbach say, no, even when I'm running away from my enemies, even when I'm scared for my life, Ashir ala Hashem, I could sing.
So now here comes Machriya Beineihem, Yachriya Beineihem. Here comes Reb Abie, and what is Reb Abie? So what does Abie think?
If I had to pick Machloeks between Reb Brisker Rav and Reb Shlomo, I'd probably pick the Brisker Rav side, in terms music? Of... So how did Shlomo learn? So Shlomo learned, Ashir Lashem Ki Gomal Allah. He already felt the Gemul. He already felt Ki Gomal Allah because he was good to me. Even though right now I don't see the good, maybe.
If you were writing this song.
I don't know. Beautiful Machloekes. Beautiful machlek.
Elu
ve'elu. How about that?
Okay, I can hear that. Someone called me up about a song that I just wrote and said, Eli, what did you mean by this line? I said, I meant whatever you thought I meant.
There are layers. There are layers to understanding. There are multiple levels. That's
why I was talking to you about this new album and the song Baruch Hashem song that you wrote. The reason why it resonated is because the songwriting, because in the end, the simplicity of a song is the hardest thing to do. The ability to take down, it's like the Torah. The Torah was written with as few words as possible. For you to be able to capture the wide range of emotion in one lyric, tattered, like that's the genius for me. When I hear that, to tell a long story, it's hard to do, and to tell that correctly, very hard to do. It's even harder to make someone feel something with that lyric.
It's true. The most memorable lines in songs, and the most memorable lines in any production or even books. It's Shakespeare. To be or not to be. It's such a short phrase. He wrote thousands of words, but everybody finds there's certain little phrases somewhere, and the same thing in songs and music.
Yeah, I feel like
small piece of heaven in everyone's heart. So you have a line that resonates with people, and they remember it because it's also a song. It's true. Rebelli, you do that too in your music. Baruch Hashem.
I have to tell you, I really...
Gewaldig.
Baruch Hashem.
This year especially, you put out a lot of stuff this year.
Yeah.
It was a busy year for you.
I did.
And today everybody's doing things with... I'm still an old timer. It's mostly, most of the stuff is audio that I do. But today everything is music and video.
Well, we're going to change that. Do you know, because we're going to be doing a music video, which you will completely... not be involved in whatsoever. Zero. Possibly. Okay, maybe. Okay, you're definitely going to be involved in it.
Okay,
but
boom.
Boom, you're in, okay? It's a lot easier today, actually, than you think. Once you get it out there on the streaming platforms, you haven't really put out like a Journey's level, like mass appeal album since
it didn't exist. It didn't exist in those days.
Right.
Everything was still analog. Did we record on tape?
No, we recorded analog.
We went straight into Pro Tools?
We went straight to Pro Tools.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I think that was the first album I did that was digital. Yeah. Everything else, I have tapes in the basement. My whole basement's cluttered with 2-inch tapes.
Do you really?
I still have
Do you have
them.
all the albums?
Pretty much.
You have the Dvekas albums and the Journey's albums on...
2-inch tape, yeah. 16 track, 24 track.
Oh my God, okay. I just came up with something crazy. Here's what's going to happen if you would approve. We got to take.
But you probably couldn't even play them. There's probably nothing.
I know I can.
Who has a 2-inch machine?
I have.
You have a 2-inch machine?
I have.
You probably put it on going.
I have.
I did not keep it in a humidified or non-humidified basement.
We'll recover it, Abes. We will recover it. And what if we did hang on. Because my dream was always to do like an Isha Ribo type of Israeli, bring the Israelis onto this old, onto the old Vegas stuff. But what about putting all that stuff up, all the analog stuff, I can bring it into digital, convert it. And we have the original tracks. Like, first of all, the way they were done back then, the perfectly imperfect bass line. If we took all that stuff, we take out the vocals and we bring in some of the new guys and master and remaster and reimagine it. And listen, I'm doing the reimagined Dveka stuff with my thing, with stuff, just my guitar and one violin and utilizing the vocal. But that would be amazing. Just an idea. Keep it in your mind as a possibility.
Maybe should give us all kayach to be gesund and to have time. And you're right. I would love to reimagine some of the old songs that are really good. I'd love to do an album of songs that we were talking about it before. I was talking about it with Yossi Zweig about I mean, I have a good 4 or 5 songs. I'm sure Yossi Green does. I'm sure Rachmiel. I'm sure all the composers have songs that they couldn't understand, didn't make it. You know, why didn't that song make it?
Which one is that for you?
I have a song called Inve HaGeffen, which I think is such a...
Which one? How does it go?
Inve HaGeffen, be Inve HaGeffen. Such a sweet waltz. Such a sweet waltz to sing it a Sheva Brachas, right? Just, I don't know why. Just never. So I'd love to. So like an album of that kind of stuff.
Was that in number?
That was Levin Nefesh 2.
Yeah. I sang on that album. Cool. That was the first album I ever sang on in my life. Levin Nefesh 2 was the first.
For those that don't know, I mean, Eli is like, he's like a nephew to me. His mamish. I grew up hanging around their house. Every time I came into New York to record, whether it was Dvekas, Journeys, Leva Nefesh, I hung out in the Schwebel's house, with the 2 pianos, and it was mamish and machaya. I remember sitting there with Yossi Green coming over. We were composing together. And
what do you mean? You wrote? And like, that was Yossi. Written in my house at my piano.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Which part did you write?
The last part.
Oh, yeah. That was yours.
Yeah.
When you wrote that, I was there. I was probably 13 years old, around there at 12. I was probably 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And I saw that happen. And for me, even though I grew up with Daddy, who's for me, a world-class vocal, every time all these people came through, I was just like, oh my God, right?
So your house was so open and everybody felt so comfortable there. And the only one anybody felt a little bit nervous about was what your mother was going to say about a song, or she had a better ear than any of us, better musical ear than all of us.
Amazing. She is tremendous.
She was. If you got past Mrs.
Then you win. Then you're
Mrs.
okay.
Schwebel, you got past Liba, you were in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
You knew you had something good.
Let's talk about the album for a second, because we're 2 Jews.
Yeah.
I know what they say. Within 3 minutes, if you don't talk about the Holocaust, you can know the person's not Jewish. There's a reason you're going there first. I asked you about the album. The first thing you said was, we have 3 songs about the Holocaust. Now that's just telling within itself. Right. Why do you think that's where you go when you speak about the album?
Look, I'm the child of Holocaust survivors. My father didn't go to the camps, neither did my mother, but they lost family, they lost siblings and parents in Europe. They each had to run away from the Nazis. Their friends were all survivors. My in-laws, my wife's parents were Holocaust survivors. Obviously, as a child of Holocaust survivors, it was a major part of my life growing up. But it's also a major part of Jewish history, and the recent Jewish history, modern Jewish history. And we're now 70 years after the war, and thank God, and alavai weiter, things are relatively at peace. And Jewish music has changed along with that peace, whereas after the war, everything was a little bit more subdued, and certainly it took a while for the Jews to recover from the tragedy and the trauma of the Holocaust. Music had a certain melancholy to it. Today's music is much, much more upbeat, much more major chords, much more happy with dancing, with videos. And, you have major singers out there and major performers today who barely have a slow song in their repertoire, or a soulful song. And they're great and they're wonderful at what they do, and they bring simcha to Yidden, and they encourage people to do the right thing and to get closer to Hashem, but in a very happy and I'm nervous about that. I think we need to remain connected to the traumas and the sorrow and the difficulties of our past. And I hope it's not something that disappears, in another 10, 20, 30 years. And if Journeys helps a little bit to revive that among the youth today, the great-grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, and the great-great-grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, I think that's an important thing, to think about the precarious position the Jews are in the world and how at any given moment we could be fodder to the nations of the world, and how we have to daven and trust Hashem and stay connected.
It's a mahalach hachaim. It's a choice of how to engage with this trauma, which is to hold on to it, to acknowledge it, to acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the story, and to not forget this narrative, because never.
God bless Ruth Lichtenstein and Project Witness and other Holocaust Eli Climate people who are working hard to keep this alive, to keep our children educated about it. I mean, it would be such a tragedy. It would be so sad. You ask a kid who goes to, go 7th grade or an 8th grade, they almost don't know anything about it. Could you imagine? We're only a few generations past it. And it's almost like ancient history. It's on par with what happened to Tzias Mitzrayim and Tainus Esther and the Chves, the Maranos, It's like all gone and
right.
Think about
right.
it.
And we sing about, and we, like they say, Tisha B'Av, I've heard, is a time to...
It's a national day of mourning for Klal Yisrael, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's a day that people try to incorporate today. They try to take the Holocaust and, utilize that as the lens of Tisha B'Av. Because to
that's
engage...
a very, very worthy thing that they do. But I'm saying this gives, again, another song, My Little Town, an entire town of Jews. 600 people in my little town, and only I, would survive. That there was such a town, that there was a place where after Yemach Shemom, what they did to us, what they did to our people, one person came out. And there might have been places where nobody came out. But we wouldn't even know, because there would be nobody left to tell that story, right? And what they did to us and how vulnerable we were. And it's important. It's important stuff. And I hope, look, I love music like everybody else. And music can be so uplifting and so wonderful and so important, an important part of our life. But every musician brings a different quality to the table. If I have an ability to do something meaningful in my music, it's for the message and for somebody to think and for somebody an item for discussion. That's my music. My music is not just for people to have it in the background, like we said.
I believe that music done that way, for me, it's heresy. I'm beyond that.
That's a legitimate form of music, Eli. It's a legitimate form of music where you have it in the background and it uplifts you, puts you in a good mood. But it's a style of music, and those people who do it, God bless them, and that's wonderful. It was never certainly not with Journeys. It was never what I wanted to do, right?
Why not? Why not? You have It's not
my personality. I can't be everybody, and and not everybody should be me. If somebody out there has the gift of a certain kind of an approach and that they feel comfortable with and that they do well, everybody brings a different power and a different koyach and a different advantage to their artistic expression. And the world is better off because of it. Because if we were all monolithic, if we were all the same, if we were all homogeneous, what would life be like? One color, drab color, black and white, grays.
Black and white.
A little blues.
I'm wearing the blues.
There you go.
I got the here come.
Pesach blues. We should make a l'chaim, don't you think?
I think we need another one. Abie, how excited are you about having Hananya on the album singing?
Singing, wow.
For me, I thought that was epic. Seeing father and son together with me in the studio, the two of you, he wrote the tune. I'm sitting there with you guys.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Eli and to Gadi and to Ari. First of all, they came in that day. They sang their hearts out. I had to run out. If you remember, I ran out to a Pidgin Aben. I was the Kayin. It was during the 9 days, so I was very, very eager to go because it was a fleshik meal being served in the 9 days. And I ran out and I came back and Eli said, we were just schmoozing with Hakar. And then Donnie puts up the music and they did all this harmony and it was gewaldig. I was so happy.
Yeah.
It was great. But they invited Hananya. They said, Hananya, you're here in the studio. Sing a line or two, sing a little bit.
Yeah.
And he sang nicely.
Yeah, he really did. It was beautiful the way he sang. But for me, it was
watching him.
Because growing up in your shadow as a songwriter, for me, the greatest Jewish songwriter since David HaMelech. Personally, he's the great David HaMelech, greatest songwriter of Jewish history, like Leonard Cohen and then Abie Rottenberg. you gave me the koyach, let me tell you, to reach deep down and say, I can say something that I feel, that I'm dealing with.
And continue that way. Write the music for yourself. Those that want to come and embrace your music are going to come. And those that don't feel an affinity with that, so what? But you are happy. It's you.
And
it's
why
your
is that?
music.
Can you tell me, why is that so important? Because I'll tell you.
You have to be true to yourself. You can't worry about the commercial. You can't worry about, this is going to sell more if I change this note or if I say that word or if this person is going to be offended or that person's not going to be. Don't think about that. I shouldn't say going to be. If you're going to offend a lot of people, try not to offend a lot of people.
Because why do that?
Why do that? Pashut als Menschlichkeit. And that shouldn't be part of your repertoire in the first place. But obviously, if you feel strongly about something and you want to say something, you're the one putting out you're paying for it. You're the one who wrote it. You're the one who's producing it. This is your music. Are you worried about somebody who's not going to like it? Okay, somebody's not going to like it. So that's you. You want to represent yourself as somebody else? That makes no sense.
Right. And, it's like I think about the Jewish music that's out there. Shakespearean. You spoke about Shakespeare before. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of the Jewish music, can you imagine? It's like, art thoueth, like if you do the art scroll, like if you sing the words, the way it's like, art thou thinking thy such. If you translate the Hebrew words without the context of what they meant in that time. You have taken those words, who in the major, like that major
majestic,
lift. That major lift is coming from the minor and saying, there's a release there that is told beautifully by you musically. And
you touched on something before, and I think it's a big problem, and I suffer from the problem as well. Maybe in Eretz Yisrael less so, by the people who really understand Tanakh and understand Tehillim and understand the words, and especially the hard words. We daven, and much of the davening are, let's say, from Tanakh, from Tehillim, and we don't really understand it. We say the Shir Shel Yom, and what's this mean? What is that? It's such a problem. The poetry, the genius, and it's back because Hebrew sometimes is backwards to English, and we translate everything into our heads back to English, try to understand the Hebrew. We lose so much of the flavor, the beauty, the song, a psalm. What does a psalm mean? Right? Elokayach Tzion, God Zion. What does it mean? Your God Zion. It's not. It's oh God or oh Zion. There are words that are. And Art Scroll does it. Art Scroll puts in the words and the meaning.
They try.
And it's all there. But you have to know, and you have to feel it. And when you say those words, you have to know how to put it into the real intention that David HaMelech had when he wrote those words. And we're missing that so often. And we're the poorer for it. And I wish, in schools and somehow they would teach us at least the key tefillas. Give us I know it's hard to do it for children, and most of our learning is done when we're young. Like the kids will feel funny almost, but we've got to try to.
Yeah, I spent 120 episodes with my Rebbe, Rav Daniel Cohn, Rav Bat Ayin, doing this. I said this exact thing. I said, Rebbe, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm 3 years old. I said, teach me how to daven. What is going on? What are we doing? As a musician, you know how important the lyric is. You know how and you can see the poetry in all of this going on. The words are evoking the imagery, and when you stop and think about it, it gives you the chills. But when you don't stop, and you don't know, what's going on? I'm sitting in your house, like, whose house? How do I think about the Ribbono Shel Olam's house? What does it look like?
I think, unfortunately, I don't think there are many people. I think there are certainly great Talmidei Chachamim and great scholars do understand and do know, but it's very few. I don't know what percentage, 1%, 2% of the population are really, getting what they should be getting out of tefillah, and it's so unfortunate, it's so sad. I don't have the solution. I don't have the answers. I know they have so little time in the day to teach everything, but it's a problem. It's a problem. Listen, hopefully in some of the music that we put out, now and in the past and going forward in the future, will, give kids and adults, a certain sense of, in our native tongue, a little bit. David HaMelech, if he would live today, he'd be writing in English. If he
He'd
lived
be
today,
writing what you're writing.
Okay, all right.
David HaMelech, if David HaMelech was alive today,
Shkoyach.
he'd be writing what you're
another fist
boom.
bump.
That's that's a Schwebelism, Abieism.
But I think you're right. I think he would be writing in English. He'd be trying to touch hearts.
That's what he'd be doing.
So
He wouldn't be trying to touch hearts. He'd be trying to touch his
own heart.
That's what he'd be doing, speaking like you.
And he'd tell everybody what he was saying to himself.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That's it. Here's what I got going on inside of me. If you want to hear it, this is what it is. Beautiful. That's mamish what would happen.
Eli, mamish, beautifully, well said.
It's really the truth. You said it. I didn't say it. You said it. I'm just repeating it back to you. You said this clearly. The reason this is so important is you said, I don't care what other people think. It's not that you don't care what other people think. It's that you know what you feel and you're confident in your expression of how you utilize your craft and your...
You're 100% right. If I thought nobody was going to like it, I know there are people who are also going to feel like I do, but I don't care that there are people who may not.
Right.
It doesn't bother me. Obviously, I would never put something out that I thought everybody would be turned off from or would be revulsed by. Obviously, nobody.
Because everybody needs. You need. There's a validation.
In halacha, there's even such a thing. It has to be something that is makubal ala tzibur. So I know that that's not a problem. But certainly nuances, I'm going to worry about this nuance, I'm going to worry about that, where the person's going to be offended. You can't do that. You have to follow your heart. You have to know that you have basically a product that has virtue. It's well-intended and it's done properly. And then let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you for spending this time just like getting to the heart of the song writer and the concept of what it means to write a song in general and to really delve into that core expression as your...
Have you ever had trouble falling asleep at night because of a lyric that was troubling you or bothering you, that you weren't sure to say it this way, to say it that way?
A night? Come on, it's. I wake up in the middle of the night. I go and record.
I don't have to say which song, but there was a song where I changed the lyric the night before we went to mix. And we called up the vocalist, and he had a system at home. He was able to change the one word and send it to us by email. So until you actually, mix, master, and produce and sell your album, it's not in stone. But once you write a book, you publish it, you can't take it back. It's out there. It's done. It's in the public eye. But until until you get to that point, you can still change. You can modify. It's the famous Vart. It's a beautiful vart between the two great achronim, the Ktsais and the Nesivos. Everybody knows the Ktsais. They wrote the Ktsais in the Shulchan Aruch, and the Ktsais was learned in every yeshiva, and it's a Lamdish sefer on all the yeshivish Masechtas. Fantastic. And the Nesivos lived at the same time, and he basically wrote a similar sefer to the Ktsais, but whereas the Ktsais sold thousands of copies, the Nesivos sold a few hundred, and they met. And the Nesivos goes over the Ktsais. I said, I don't understand. Why is your sefer so much more popular than mine? So he says, we both took out our pens and we both wrote, but I used my eraser more than you did, right? Right?
The rewrite.
The rewrite. I took out. I knew what to take out. You kept everything in. Maybe you went out a little too long-winded, or there were some things in there that. So we, until the last minute, until it's published, you are.
But how good do you feel about when you know what it's called? It's called a release for a reason.
That's
it's a release of all of this tension, of all of this. Okay, so you said we have 3 Holocaust songs written by...
One by myself, one by Hananya, and one by Shifi. Shifi Ox is my daughter, Shifi Rottenberg Ox. Hananya David Rottenberg. So there are 3 stages. One is about the Holocaust itself and life before the war. One is about the amazing growth of Judaism and Jewish life after the Holocaust. And she asks the question in her song, how did they lift themselves from the dust and build this world?
I heard you talk about that lyric.
They created for us. What a lyric. And the whole song is beautiful. I'll get you a copy on the way out. And my song is really about two great Rebbes after the war. trying to lift up Klal Yisrael and trying to lift each other up. A little story, it's a ballad. Avram Fried sings that song. He sings his heart out. Oh my gosh, he sang it beautifully.
I remember he was supposed to sing Mama Rachel back in the day.
He was.
He was supposed to sing it. I remember sitting there. I was
He would have.
But he was traveling or something.
No,
right?
his father was not well, and so he felt he couldn't give me the time, and so Yaakov came in and did a wonderful job.
I was there with you. I remember
that evening.
I remember that night. I remember that. I remember sitting there with you and with him, and he was nailing it. But of course, I met Morty Schaap at dinner last night.
Yeah. Did he enjoy? He enjoyed working with me.
He said, "Eli, it was." He said, "Oh my goodness!" He was holding my baby. Let me show you. And he goes, "I'm telling you, he was so cool." I'm like, "Did you have a good time with him?" He said, "You know what? I gave myself over to Abie."
He did.
I said, and I said,
tremendous talent.
Yeah, tremendous talent.
And a sweetheart, really came in, sang his heart out, put his heart and soul into it. Everybody did. Shulam Lemmer came in and sang his heart out.
Shulam's a big talent. All these guys, let me tell you, you picked great guys. I mean, there's only a couple of guys, to be honest with you. How many guys are there out there that can sing in English without sounding like they're coming from you saying, "What happens, guys? Came to yeshiva." It's hard to have a guy sing a country tune. Joey could sing, but these guys. So Morty told me. I said, "So did you get him to sing with you?" He said, I think I asked him if he's going to. I said, "You didn't push him to sing?" He goes, "I was dying to have him sing with me. I was dying." Last night he told me this.
Agreed. Not because it wouldn't be an honor for me to sing with Mordechai Shapiro, but he fit like a glove to that song. That song was like Nothing in Your Life, which is what he sings. It's a universal theme. It's a theme about how the most important thing in our lives is to think of others. It's not to live for ourselves, but it's to live to others. Nothing in your life will ever be more meaningful than giving of yourself to help another. That's the...
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, right? So that song has been around for a long time in my repertoire, yes. But Mordechai Shapiro took that song and he owned it and he sang it, and it was written for him, even though I didn't know him at the time. It was really written for him.
I heard this. I think you played this for me once.
Yeah, it's an old song. It's been around for a long time. Yeah.
How many years ago did you write that song?
Maybe 20. Maybe 20 years. 18 years ago, something like that.
It's crazy. Imagine people
I think Morty was born already when I wrote that song, but not much more.
I was on stage with him. He told me, he goes, he's dating me. He's like, "I grew up on this guy's music, on me." I'm like, "You're totally dating me." Like, he's like, "You grew up on my..." Stop that. And it turns out, how many years have gone by?
You've been around the block, Ellie. You've been around the block.
22 years.
I'm telling you, 18 years since Journeys 4. And Journeys 4 was to a great extent you and the guys and your harmonies. We danced around, just that refrain.
We danced round.
That refrain, and when the kick drum comes in, and it just brings it a whole new life, and it was like Klal Yisrael came back to life.
It was really epic.
That's symbolic in that song. You guys helped out great. I needed it. I was all alone up there in Toronto. I needed a little chizuk from the boys in New York, and I got it. I picked right. I picked the right guy.
Well, you don't remember. The deal was, I asked you to record an Leiv Tahar 1.
I sang The Ninth Man or something with you, or what was it?
No, that was Journeys 4. We did that.
No, but you sang. I sang something with you on Leiv Tahar. I sang whether it was The Ninth Man or something.
No, I asked you if I can record the songs.
Right,
and you made a deal with me.
It's Time to Say Good Shabbos or something.
Time to Say Good Shabbos. No, we sang. We did a lot of
Journey songs. Yeah.
No, a bunch of. And you said, "Eli, if you do that, you have to help me with Journeys 4. You have to help me produce." And I said, "Yes, yes, please." Mm-hmm. And that was what a time in my life to be able to sit there. Now we're 18 years later. You're killing me right now. You're destroying me.
What do you think I feel? I started off older than you are today.
How old were you when how old Vegas One was the first album? What was the first album?
My first real album or album that I produced was Vegas One, and came out in 1973, but we recorded it in 1972. So I was 20 years old.
So who sings on this album? Let's talk
So
about.
it starts off with Benny Friedman. He sings Baruch Hashem. He sings Chaverim Kol Yisrael, which we spoke
I heard that.
about.
Great song. Great
About
song.
life after Mashiach. But not life after Mashiach from all its aspects, because life after Mashiach is going to be incredible, because Mashiach is going to be basically the king of the Jews, but the king of the world, and there'll be Malchus Shamayim, and it's not that, the Karbonis space. I mean, there's so many aspects to life after Mashiach, but life after Mashiach from the perspective of Chaverim Kol Yisrael. There will be no more this kind of Jew, that kind of Jew, from Friday, Chaverim Kol Yisrael. The tefillah we say, Misha Sanis and Lavosena, we go, Hu Yigal Osana, he will redeem us. Hu Yigal Osana, Vikabetz Nidochenu, he will gather us from the four corners of the earth, and then, after that happens, Chaverim Kol Yisrael, we will all be Chaverim. So that aspect of the unity of Kol Yisrael is what's highlighted in that song, and
utilize the niggin in that song. Which niggin did you utilize?
I took an old Bubiver niggin.
I love that.
But I
niggin.
adapted the niggin. It's not the whole.
First of all, one of my favorite nigunim ever.
Beautiful niggin. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But I had to shorten the niggin a little. So people ask me, do I write the song first? Do I write the words first? This one I had to do both. I had the song in mind, but I had to change the song for the word.
You ended off on the major. Chaverim
Kol Yisrael.
Which was like
very happy.
Very happy, and like and he's a perfect person to speak about Mashiach. Just saying.
Not only that, his voice and his personality. We're going to do a video for that song as well. I've done a lot of Dvekis stuff together with him. He knows the songs.
He knows the stuff cold.
So we go from Chaverim Kol Yisrael to From the Ashes, which is I sing with the Maccabees.
Really?
Yeah, with the Chevra. It was very nice.
That's great. You did it a cappella.
I'll tell you. No, it's not a cappella. There's music. We have an a cappella piece in it, where they come out and they. But the reason I did it is I felt very strongly that I wanted to use young, contemporary artists to sing that. So I didn't want to sing with some guy my age or some guy a few years younger than me who's also children. I wanted it to be something that even the young and the younger audiences will say, hey, wait a second, this is sung little bit of the vernacular that they bring and a little bit of the more modern style, but I wanted it to be something that people could see as a contemporary song, even though it's about events that occurred 75 years ago. So that's very much what's in my mind. From the Ashes.
Whoa.
And we got them to sing with tremendous emotion, and it's they did a great job. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they're so tight, those guys.
They're
tight. Yeah. Very tight.
And we go to Baruch Hashem, it's Shabbos. I do a duet with Shlomi Gertner from London.
Oh,
it's just a happy song about the
perfect guy for happy.
Beauty song about Shabbos, the beauty of Shabbos, the difference between Shabbos and Choyel. I'm so stressed at work. When I hear the boss, I jump. And then he sings, when I shop or go to shul, I'm always parking by a pump. Right? So, that kind of thing.
That's a classic Abie line right there.
So that kind of thing, the feeling of what thing, and then, Baruch Hashem, it's Shabbos, Heilig Yitzayir Shabbos. So that kind of a vibe with Shlomi Gertner, with the choir, very nice. And then we go from there to maybe Journey at Sea. Is it possible? No. Then I think we go to Nothing in Your Life. With Mordechai Shapiro, the song we talked about. Then I think it's Journey at Sea.
With us.
With the absolutely great Lev Tahor boys.
Oh!
Journey at Sea.
Yes.
Which is really, if you think about it in a way, a more majestic remake of Ride the Train. But instead of being on the train, you depart on a boat and you go through the choppy waters. So most of the people are on the ride for fun, and Klal Yisrael or people who believe in Hashem and His Torah will realize that life is more than just a ride of fun. So here it's a little different. The perspective is the challenges, the storms that come in a person's life, and how he still has to, no mortal can conquer the deep. That line that we cannot.
No mortal, when you sing that.
Yeah. No mortal can conquer the deep.
That was such an Abie. No mortal. Like I was like, no one sings that line. That line.
It's the way it feels good to me.
It feels so good. It feels so good, that lyric.
So Journey at Sea, and then we go to My Little Town. So we hit, that's a gut punch. about the
Who
pain.
sings that?
Shulam.
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 Yeah,
sings that.
I heard that a little bit. That was
Yeah.
he has that vibrato up there with that sweet with up the highs. It's
Shulam. And then we go from there to maybe to Baruch Hashem, maybe to the regular the Baruch Hashem. You can't say it enough. So you have a Baruch Hashem, it's Shabbos with an exclamation point after Shabbos, and then Baruch Hashem, you can't say it enough. And then we go to, I think, The Secret. I don't know if you heard The Secret.
I didn't hear yet.
Written by Bella Levitan.
Bella.
My oldest daughter, she's been writing songs for many, many years. She wrote the Shema Yisrael that Shweki sings. Shema, Shema Yisrael. Know that there is just one God above. When you feel pain.
You know, I trust the goosebumps. I trust the goosebumps. My body knows when you did it right. You nailed that chord. Boom. First, I was like, this is beautiful. But then when you did that, Bella, I was blown away.
She wrote a song called The Secret.
The Secret. What's it about? Bella, why don't you tell us about The Secret? She's sitting over there. She's right there. Hi, Bella. Bella, why don't you tell us about The Secret?
I wrote it with. So anyway, The Secret is about putting in a little hard work. In today's click. I want it tomorrow. I want it Amazon.
I need it
now
yesterday.
Generation. I want it yesterday. Putting in a little old-fashioned hard work. Teaching today's generation that, and you should know this, Eli. From you put in a lot of hard work in what you do. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes.
My grandfather whispered a secret to me.
It's like that?
Yeah.
And showed me his old violin.
Is this?
As you would with a feather, pick up the bow, put the instrument under your chin. And he talks about how you have to work hard and learn it. And at the end of the day, people will rise up on their feet when they hear you play it. But don't think you're going to pick it up and play it right away. You got to work at it.
That hits me.
My Rebbe whispered a secret to me, and look deep in my eyes. Whenever you learn, but the Rebbe's telling me you have to learn. Try not to. Don't think that you can understand it right away. Again, review it again and again, and then you'll be dancing with joy in the end. Something like that.
There's a nice ending, but
what's the ending? Tell us about the nice ending.
Listen to the song.
Okay, you don't want to give it away. I hear you.
No, and there's a Hebrew chorus. The chorus is in Ivrit. Hazorim b'dima berina yiktzoru. If you plant with tears, you will reap with joy. When you plant, you put your seeds in with tears, you'll be so joyful because you put in the work. You put in the pasuk from David HaMelech. Hazorim b'dima. We sang it in Shir Amalis. Hazorim b'dima. Right?
Yeah.
And we say it all the time.
That's the wrong niggin.
And we say it all the time, right? We say it all the time, but this is a deeper insight into those words.
Musical credits goes to Nachum, my son, also for this.
Yeah, my grandson.
Oh, he worked on the Nachum?
On the music.
What do you think? Tell us about Nachum for a second.
Nachum's a superstar, in the making. He's a very talented boy.
He does writing, he sings, he plays, he arranges. He's good with digital music. He knows the melucha.
Yeah, I got to meet him.
Yeah, sure.
I got to hang out with him.
He would love to hang out with you, Eli. He would love it.
Tell him to come by the studio in Brooklyn. Oh, he's in Israel.
Now he's learning. He's learning.
Oh, I heard about this thing with learning you can't do music.
He's finding his way to do music.
He's figuring it out.
Okay, Belle, thank you so much.
Thanks for hearing about that. So The Secret, we're on with The Secret.
And the eighth day guy.
Who sings that? The eighth day guy. I just got a text from Bensi.
Yeah.
Did he sing that?
He and Shmuley sang it. Yeah, they sing it great. They're so good. They're
so good.
They're so talented.
They're so natural.
And you know what? With many singers, and I'm obviously not saying anything negative, but it was not hard at all to get them to say it and sing it the way it was supposed to be sung. They just have such a natural feel for how to say and how to express a lyric. Some people you have to really train or tweak, or don't say say a, don't say a, say and they right away nailed it.
I remember there was a guy that you and I were in the studio with together, and he said "fi" instead of "for." Fi. So I understand that there's like there's an accent. You have a very specific way of wanting to hear the lyrics.
It's not just me. I think if you look even in the general world of music today, most people who sing even rock and roll and country and folk music sing with Canadian accent. Well, what's a Canadian accent? It's not an English accent. The Beatles didn't sing with,
They sang with
an American,
the American accent.
But it really means the Canadian, because they didn't sing with a New York accent either.
Well,
right? They didn't sing, let's see, let's pick a song, right? The long and winding road. They didn't sing that way, right? They sang with the Canadians. The long and winding. Everything very benign, very general.
Very open and round.
Round.
Luang is closed. They want to open the ahs and the e's. They want to, because when you're very, it's extremely constricting, and the music needs to be open.
And it also regionalizes the artist, and you don't want to do that. You don't want people to say, oh, well, yeah, I don't want to buy a song that somebody sounds like he's from Canarsie Street. You don't want that.
There's something.
I hocked you too.
You killed me. You killed me. You destroyed me. I sat in there. I'm like, you were so right. But I learned that was a big day for me in songwriting and performance. When you destroyed me absolutely in the Phase 1 studios.
I made you sing a lot of takes.
Oh my goodness, to nail.
But you nailed it.
Let me tell a tale. Let me tell a tale. No, Ellie. Let me tell a tale. I beg you all to listen. Oh, to listen. To listen. To listen. So let's get back to the album.
So we did The Secret.
We did The Secret.
Talk about The Secret. After The Secret comes, I think, Lucky Fingers Max, maybe?
Lucky Fingers Max.
Which is a song I'm deeply connected to. It's a song about somebody who, he was a gambler, a hustler. He was lucky, but he wasn't too nice. If you asked him for a dime, he'd laugh in your face. He was lucky, but he wasn't too nice. So not only was he not religious or observant, but he didn't even have the attributes of a Jew in terms of if you asked him for a dime, he'd laugh in your face. That's not meaning he had no shaykhs, no connection to Judaism or the Jewish way of life in any way. And then he himself falls on hard times, and he goes into a shul to hide from the cold. And the rabbi comes over, can I lend you some money from the synagogue fund? You could buy yourself a coat and some bread. Rabbi Lucky said, you don't understand. I'm a gambler, a hustler, a cheat. All I see is a Jew, the old rabbi replied, who needs to get back on his feet. And Lucky takes the money and goes to the track. Doesn't go buy himself a coat or bread, because gamblers don't do that when they have money, right? But this time, he wins big. And the next thing in the song is, somewhere in Brooklyn, there's a brand new shul, 3 stories of precious stained glass.
Beautiful.
All it says on the plaque is the money came from heaven, an anonymous gift of cold cash. Lucky Fingers Max still has a long, long way to go, but he got lucky and found out he has a Jewish soul. And that's my Shir HaShirim. It's like Kodesh HaKadoshim. No, he still has a long, long way to go, but still.
That's your Shir HaShirim.
Yeah, because what did the Rav do? The rabbi didn't look at him. He didn't judge him. He didn't say, oy vey, maybe he's going to use the money for this, or maybe he's going to use the money for that. He saw a Jew. He saw a Jew in need. He did his responsibility. All I see is a Jew who needs to get back on his feet. I'm doing what I have to do. I'm giving you an opportunity. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu took that money and made Lucky again. And not only did he get lucky that he got money, but he got lucky that he found out that I have to give some of it away.
That is listen to that image. That image.
It's a deep song.
That's a very, very deep image.
Yeah, it's a deep song. It's a real jazzy kind of song. Yaron did the arrangement for that. The words and the message there are to me, are Kodesh HaKadosh. And that I've had around for a long time as well, that song. But
how many, we're going to finish that. How many, so we have the Lucky Fingers Max. How many, so now.
How many more to go?
We have Gershon Verobo doing that.
And then I think we have Ain't No Bishul.
Ain't No Bishul.
I don't know if it's right after that, but there's Ain't No Bishul. I do Moshe S's Ain't No Bishul with Tali. I do it with Tali.
I sang with Tali before. He's great.
He's great. A lot of fun. And
yeah.
I do a little tribute to Moshe S on the album as well. I do a speaking tribute. I talk about Moshe, what he meant to Journey. He was on 3 Journeys albums, Moshe, and he's no longer with us. And so I do a little tribute to him. And then there's a song called Ushpizen. The Ushpizen song, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. I took a Chaim David song. The Shivas, his 7 shepherds. Avraham Avinu.
Oh, yeah, it sounds cool.
You'll love it. You'll love it.
So who'd you do it with?
There was Shlomo Simcha and Baruch, all Torontonians.
Yeah, it's
the Toronto contingent. It's a real Herzog guitar, kind of a Shlomo style song. Chaim David's a Talmud of Shlomo. But I wrote new words, I wrote new lyrics. I made it more of a song for sukkahs. Sit in the sukkah, invite the Ushpizin in, hope for them to come back, after
that's a really cool thing. I've never heard an Ushpizin song before.
Yeah.
Like a really, that's
he
really
called
beautiful.
His song Shivat HaRo'im, or the Seven Shepherds, and we call it Ushpizin. We call it Ushpizin because it's more about the Ushpizin, and then we sing his chorus. Anyway, you'll see it.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I sent it to him last night because we just mixed it, so I sent you.
Eli, what's doing?
He's so happy.
He's so great. Yeah. What a beautiful yid.
What a beautiful yid.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. He really, I really got close to him when I lived in the old city. He's just like a holy person.
Baruch Hashem. And then we've got the music too. The second version of We've Got the Music with all the new, with Eli Schwebel's Lev Tahar.
Yeah, God in Hari killed me. But but what is that? So that's the end of the album.
And that's it. Yes.
So then we have
14 songs. 14 songs. We missed The Ring. The Ring.
Okay.
The Ring.
Who wrote The Ring?
Shifty wrote The Ring.
Shifty wrote that.
It's a wonderful story. I think I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a beautiful story about love, and it's a meaningful song. It's a ballad, beautiful ballad that she wrote, and very proud of it.
Who sings it? You do,
I do.
Right? Just
you.
you.
It's my solo, yeah.
And you know what, I was listening to this and I said, all of the songs that you sang, that your kids wrote, right? I hear you, but it's not Abie. Hey, it's like it's someone else at the same time.
But it felt like Journey. Felt like
Journeys. What I mean is, it's really cool to see you on a child song and to hear them in you and you in them. Yeah. It's really cool. I was really appreciative of that. I was like, wow, I could hear both of you.
Yeah.
At this, songwriting wise, they took a lot.
Yeah. That's the album, and it's Hashem. I hope it reaches many Jews. I hope it reaches Jews.
Hashem wants. It's happening.
It's happening.
It's already happening. I don't believe in Emir Hashem. There's Hashem wants. You know how I know? Emir Dover Oimid B'fnei Ratzim, right? And B'derech Sha'adam Roitz Aleich Melichan Oisai. And I believe with 100% clarity that this album has been on people's minds for 18 years.
I don't know about that.
Yes.
Certainly the last
there are people, here's the thing. You just have to let them know. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. It's whether they want it, everybody wants it. Mm-hmm. Oh, it came out? I had no idea. Mm-hmm. Did it? Yes, it did. And we are going to make sure with clarity that it's not a mitzvah Hashem. Hashem wants. That's no mitzvah Hashem. Hashem wants. Hashem wants. Who did the artwork for the album?
Yocheved Herzog. I forgot the name of her company, but she does.
And what was your image for this?
The image of the front cover is a rose growing out of ashes.
Wow. So that's very telling of what when
my
I asked
mindset,
you of what your mindset was with this.
We are flourishing. We are Baruch Hashem. There's so much Yiddishkeit. There's so much Torah. And there's Jewish life beyond the Orthodox community. There's Jewish life. There's history. We have our own state. We have our own army. We have life again. The Jewish nation has come back, but it didn't just come back out of nothing. It came back out of ashes. It grew out of ashes. It grew out of less than nothing. It grew out of pain and sorrow and misery. And the flower is beautiful. Flower is white, and it's a luscious rose, and it's just hopeful for the future that that there will be Chaverim Kol Yisrael one of these days. Emir Hashem.
I don't want to end like this because I really want to talk to you about that specific point, about how important it is to hold on to the past correctly, and what is the line for you? You see, because this is the core of the album for you. So how do you balance?
There are many songs on the album that speak, the word journeys. People ask me how I picked it, why I picked it. So obviously on the first album, there was the story of the Sefer Torah that traveled from Kiev and ended up in the United States. But when I thought about the idea of maybe calling it Journeys, I said, it's not just one song. There are the boys in the classroom on the East Side who journeyed from being a bunch of bums into kids who wanted to learn. There's a story about about there's no place like home, of the Yid who first went to the Hare Krishnas, and then he went to the Christians, and then he went to Eretz Yisrael. So he traveled. There's a journey. There's a journey of the brothers in the womb. They're journeying from the previous world to the new world. We're always in flux. We're always moving. And on this album as well, there's much travel from pain, suffering, dust to redemption. And you have obviously the growth after the Holocaust from the ashes. You have the Lucky Fingers Max, going from being a hustler, a gambler, a cheat, and to somebody who at least started to move towards humanity and feeling and compassion, right? So he came from dust and he went somewhere. And you have other songs like that, on the album. You have so many songs. Hold on a second.
Journey at Sea. No, just kidding.
No, even in Baruch Hashem, the guys, he talks about how
Can you
he
talk
grows.
about that line? Tell us that. First of all, I want to say, Joey, you nailed it. I have to say, Joey Newcomb, you nailed it. That Abie, one of the most well-crafted tunes I've heard from you personally.
Thank you.
Because the pithy matter tattered. These lyrics and the way that you give over your what's the
There was a time not long ago, I'm not too proud to say, when I resented the good fortune of my friends. How I wish I could take back the envy and the pain, for it brought me less than nothing in the end. Yeah, listen. And he goes on to say that he's grown, and now he doesn't feel that envy anymore because he realizes the grass is mighty green on my side too. I've got good. So there's also a change, a metamorphosis, going from pain, going from envy, and growing up and realizing that I've got a lot of things to be thankful for. I can't live my life by looking at what other people are doing. And he could say Baruch Hashem with a pure heart.
And that's why you say Moidani in the morning. That's the first thing you do.
Right.
To get into, we don't say Baruch Hashem to get up. First you say Moidani.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So many of the songs, look, even from the ashes, the truth.
Even from the ashes.
Excuse me, even from my little town, right? Yes, it's so painful that town was destroyed, but there was one survivor. By the way, that story was inspired by, Hananya was inspired by a true account. There was Levitans have a cousin who survived the war. He was very young, and he could not find, he found two women who survived from his town. He thinks he was the only male survivor of his town, small town in Lita. And Hananya heard that story, and that gave him the idea and the impetus to sing a song about it. But only I would survive. And the idea of saying, wait a second, what happened to everybody else? Then he started to think about how, let me write or talk about what they were like when they lived and what life was like in the town before the Holocaust. So,
I'm writing a Holocaust song right now. It didn't start off as a Holocaust song. Mm-hmm. The niggun went
a cappella Eli.
Da 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 da. And I was saying it, just loved it. You'll hear it's the chord progression is just it's haunting. I didn't ask you this. Your favorite tune, one of the most inspiring songwriters for you. Who inspired you besides I met his ex-wife, John Denver, and other thing. But besides some of the greats that really...
John Denver was one of them. I listened to a lot of John Denver, Annie's Song, and Mountain Mama, and just a blend of country and folk. And he was on the Mitchell Trio. Do you know that he sang with the Mitchell Trio on one album? And I had that album at home, and John Denver's voice is there, and he's on the cover. And it was a great song with social commentary. It was just brilliant. And I loved Simon and Garfunkel. I enjoyed the Beatles as well. And I loved Harry Chapin. And who else? Listen, that was when I was young and I was a teenager or a young adult. And those were the people. Those were the people. And a lot of there was Jim Croce, and there were all kinds of, artists who had that style. I loved American Pie and those kind of songs I used to enjoy listening to. And I really didn't listen much to secular music, but when I was in the car, occasionally you would hear, and certainly sitting in the dentist chair, which I spent a lot of time doing. Oy, Eli, tzaddik.
Abe's, this was epic.
Wow, this is fun.
Oh, man. Do I love it?
Wait.
Okay, there it went.
I hope you enjoyed that special edition of the Meaningful People podcast. A big thank you to Eli and Abie. It was awesome. Loved this idea. And maybe we'll do something like this again. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you enjoy any of the episodes of Meaningful People, go ahead and make sure to subscribe if you aren't already. Whether you're listening on Apple or Spotify, subscribe to this channel. Or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the Meaningful People podcast YouTube channel. And a lot more fun, new, inspiring, exciting episodes coming your way. Really can't wait to bring it to you. And of course, behind the scenes footage for some stuff that maybe you won't see anywhere else, you can download the Meaningful Minute app. It's a free app in the App Store and the Google Play Store. So go check it out. Until then, hope you are all well, and maybe we'll see you soon. Ciao.